Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 2. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? Having sang the praises of Chris Boucher during my monologue for Shadow, it's now a little unfortunate that I must point to an episode of his that I felt did not quite come off as it should have. Weapon seems to have all the elements required to make it an interesting episode. Three-dimensional characters, seemingly anyway. Goals for both protagonists and antagonists to aim for, the conflict between our central crew is as palpable as ever, and there's even the introduction of the mysterious Clone Masters. The dialogue is as sharp as any Chris Boucher's script, and the actors are all on point. So, what's not to like? Well, I'm afraid the phrase, "where do I start?" has to follow that question. We start off with Koza and Rochelle, who have just finished blowing up their ship, and start to walk to a random abandoned base. Why they've done this, deliberately stranded themselves on this planet, what this base is, and who they think they're going to meet there, is anyone's guess. It's not explained in the episode, as far as I can tell. Koza is a thoroughly unpleasant individual, the epitome of a grumpy old man, and not a lovable, amusing grumpy old man, just a grumpy old man. One who hates being called sir by someone he insists he's set free.
And don't call me sir.
Don't call me sir!
But will continue to abuse and shout at and treat as a subordinate, and even threaten to kill more than once when she tries to assert that freedom. So it's a little difficult to relate to Koza. If anything, it's somewhat irritating to watch him. He's invented a weapon that is designed to kill and control people, so he was never going to be our best friend. But Agrorian in Season 4's Orbit invented a machine that destroyed entire planets, and he was a fascinating character. By comparison, Koza's a bore. When he bites the bullet at the hands of his own weapon, it's Servalan's hands that pull the trigger, and I doubt anyone's rooting for her. So, who are we sympathising with during Koza's death scene? No one? Then how can we as an audience be invested in it? Unfortunately, that extends to the episode as a whole. Rochelle is annoyingly meek. I acknowledge she's been a slave, but we essentially have a non-character who screams when she needs to and shuts up when she's told to. A more interesting story may have been to see her in her life as a slave, see Koza find her, liberate her, and go off with her. Or maybe see what she gets up to with Blake the clone after everyone leaves them alone. The section of her life we do see, she's rather forgettable in it. Ah yes, Blake the clone, and by extension, the Clone Masters. A bizarre and seemingly never-ending scene of monologues and false respect between Servalan, Travis Mark II, and Clone Master Thingy. Blake the clone adds very little to the Federation's grand plan. In fact, other than Koza handing him the weapon, which he then hands to Servalan, he doesn't do anything else. Is this really the only way of getting Koza to part with the weapon? I'm sure there were others. And as a result of this massively overcomplicated plan, we have to suffer through the Clone Master scenes. Servalan has to be respectful, so we don't get to see the fun, evil side of her, at least not to begin with. The Clone Master is dull and doesn't appear again in the episode, so not only is her part dull, it's ultimately pointless. And Travis. Brian Croucher's Travis. A man more of action and shoutiness than of subtlety and menace. I acknowledge that some people prefer Travis Mark II, but I prefer Stephen Greaves Travis. Doubtless that Croucher's take on the character works for the stories he appears in, or does it, but this Travis seems to lack the depth of the original. More thuggish and theatrical than the subtle malevolence seen in Season 1. More Servalan's sidekick and lackey than someone with his own agenda and obsession, which is weird given he becomes a Federation fugitive himself in 3 episodes' time. I'll be talking more about this version of Travis in future reviews. The other guest character is Carnell. Again, he's acted well, has more to him than the others, and actually seems quite likeable for a baddie. Although, he's not a baddie, he's a hired gun for all intents and purposes. My issue with Carnell isn't with the character per se, although I'd love to know why he and Servalan are putting their hands all over each other. A bit of backstory might have been nice, unless Servalan has no problem with a subordinate getting fresh with her, depending on how handsome or posh he is. No, my issue is more to do with who Carnell is. An official psycho-strategist, to be precise, or a puppeteer as the subordinates know them. Quite a clever concept, one that unfortunately is not shown properly in the episode. Other than making a few clever deductions, or rather one, about the crashed ship, he does nothing that shows these incredible strategies off. Blake's line, "It was like we were on strings and she was the puppeteer."
Imi-Pak. And she beat us to that, all right. She seemed to know every single move we were making. It's almost as if we were on strings and she was the puppeteer.
It's not only an annoyingly contrived line, it's also not actually correct. There's nothing in this plan that shows any strategy whatsoever. The biggest contribution seems to be from the drone masters, I mean the clone masters, and even that contribution was a rather unnecessary extravagance. The plan should be simple. Once they find out where Koza is, you go there, send in the militia, and get the weapon. But because Servalan voices her concern that Koza might destroy the weapon should he feel cornered, we can justify not using the common sense approach and go for the roundabout clone plan. The weapon itself. Imi-Pak. I won't waste any more time going over the stupidity of the name. This rant has already gone on longer than I intended. But it's a bit of a stupid weapon. A weapon I don't really understand the function of. A gun is a single item, one that can kill a person instantly if used properly, by a person so inclined. Imi-Pak is 2 items, and it seems to take about 10 times as long to kill someone with it than if one had an ordinary gun. I also question the control aspect of it. Yes, you can kill them within a million miles of wherever the dreaded blue box is, or they could kill themselves should they get too close to a planet that a blue box has been left on, but you still have to be in range of them to mark them in the first place. And once you're in a position to mark them, sod it, why not just kill them then and there? You're not going to mark your loved one, are you? You're going to mark people you consider a threat or an enemy. And if you're so inclined and you feel it necessary to mark them in the first place, you might as well just kill them. No? Maybe you just want to control them and where they go for whatever reason? Well, its range, a million miles in the grand scheme of space, really is not that grand a distance. And okay, maybe it could prevent them from going to a certain place or a certain planet, but depending on why you'd not want them to go to that certain place, could a deputy not go in their place and render the marking of them completely worthless? Also, how exactly does it work? Do the targets have to be selected specifically before you press the button and kill them? Or is it that every single marked person will die if they're within the range that is set when the blue box is pressed? But then we seem to have seen evidence of both those theories. Servalan marking out the distance when it comes to killing Koza. She's already marked Travis when she kills the guard, and Travis is standing right next to her, yet the guard dies and he doesn't. I don't get it. I don't get how it works. Maybe I'm overlooking something, but I wasn't that impressed with the concept. Suffice it to say, I think if Blake had known about the weapon beforehand, he wouldn't have bothered going after it. And lastly, just in case I haven't made it clear that this isn't my favourite episode, Blake and co barely do anything in this episode. They spend ages trying to get information out of Aurak about what happened at the base Koza was living on. The supercomputer, worth 100 million credits, proves less than helpful 3 episodes after he was obtained. And once they're happy with what they're doing, no one cares anymore. We already know they're walking into a trap. A perfectly stupid trap that didn't need a clone, didn't need a complicated weapon, didn't need a psycho Strata-What's-It. Travis marking the conveniently stop and stand Blake, Gan and Avon could have been Travis shooting the 3 of them dead then and there. Why let them go back to the Liberator? Only 3 of them are marked, and so Travis might as well have killed them then and there. Shows what a useless weapon Imi-Pak was, but I've already moaned about this bit. What I haven't talked about is the fact that nothing that anyone does seems to have any relevance to anything else that happens in the episode, even if it is touched upon. For example, even the proximity mines that Travis puts in orbit of the planet, which actually do attack the Liberator, even this doesn't do anything, except set off a mini firework on the flight deck. Everything just seems to be so inconsequential, which makes the whole convoluted nature of the plan seem even more redundant. Boucher's script and the dialogue he gives the characters are as polished as ever, so with that in mind the episode is at least watchable. But with very little fitting in with whatever's next to it, the whole thing feels like a chore to get through. That concludes my review on Weapon. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and feel free to check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews.
Yes, sir. Of course, sir. At once, sir.
And I will not be calling anyone sir. Bye bye.